Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be with you here today in the middle of the first week of July. And it's a great week. At least it has been for me. I hope it has been for you. But it's always a great week when God is doing things in our midst and we notice them. So I hope that's what you've experienced so far. And this week I've been talking about the 14th chapter of the Gospel of John. Now, as I mentioned initially, this is a section of the Bible just after the Passover or during the Passover, before the arrest and the crucifixion of Jesus, where he's talking to his disciples, kind of the last things he wants them to remember, type of a speech, if you want to call it a speech. And today I have one to share with you. It's really short. It's just one verse. So let's look at John chapter 14 and verse 15. And here's what Jesus said: If you love me, obey my commandments. That's it. I told you it's real short. And I would say to you that it's really, really simple to understand this, but it's just complicated. So let's kind of take a look at it. It's three sections here, really. The first one is, if you love me. Now, Jesus is giving the disciples the chance to back out. He always gives us a chance to back out. Now, I would suggest to you and anyone listening that that's not a good plan, but we always have a free will. We always can choose. And we have chosen in our lives. I don't know where you are in life in terms of whether you're way up on top, excited, or down in the bottom, or feel like you've always been oppressed. All of that has been to some degree determined by our choices. Now, that's not to say if something bad's happened, you're a bad person. Don't misunderstand me on that one. But if you love me, so you get to choose whether you want to love the Lord or not. And what does it mean to love the Lord? Well, I know what it means to love my wife, and I'm still young enough to remember what it was to be in love with a girlfriend. I suppose you've had some similar feelings or thoughts, but to love someone is to dedicate yourself to them. It's not just a phrase that you say. It's a life choosing moment. Again, we talk about choice, but a life moment where you say, I'm going to dedicate myself to you. Parents, some, unfortunately not all, choose to love their children. And in my case, because I have a number, when one gets upset with the other one and wants me to choose between them, I always say, sorry, I don't have the luxury of choosing. I'm a dad. I only have the luxury of loving each of you. And it's a decision to dedicate and orient my life towards that whom I love. Now, he says, if you love me, obey. I don't know about you, but I don't like that word. I don't like people telling me what to do. Here I'm married and an older guy, and I find myself sometimes wanting to say, now, notice I use the word wanting because I don't do it, but wanting to say to my wife, you don't tell me what to do. I did say to one of my kids one time, I said, look, I had a mom. She's gone. I don't need another one, and you're not going to be her. We rebel at being told what to do. That's part of our culture here in the United States. Every country doesn't think that way, but we do, most of us anyway. And so here, Jesus is saying this awful word that has all kinds of yuck to it called obey, meaning do what I say. So, what are we to obey? It says here, obey my commandments. Well, that was an interesting word because if you follow it exactly, Jesus said there were only two commandments. The first commandment was to love your Lord, to love your God with all your heart, with all your soul. And he said to the person who answered that, you're right. That's the great commandment. What's the next one? And the next one was to love others as you love yourself. Those are the only really two commandments that Jesus gives. Now, he also gives a lot of other, not suggestions, not maybe in the fullness of a commandment, a lot of teachings about how to live. If you're unclear about some of those, we'll go and read Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. It's got a lot of stuff in there. Good stuff about how to live. But what Jesus is saying here, if you say you love me, if you call yourself a Christian, then you have to do what he says. Now, this is a Mennonite church that I'm a part of, and I'm speaking from that perspective. And the Mennonite system, the church, in its beginning in the 1500s, was the first group of Christians. Now, there were other individuals, but the first organized group of Christians who said, if you call yourself a Christian, you have to live like one. That's still true. Jimmy Carter said when he became a Christian, someone asked him if he were on trial for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict him? Well, those are two pretty good standards. If you call yourself a Christian, you have to live like one. If you're on trial for being a Christian, there has to be enough evidence to convict you. And I don't know where you are today. I don't know how your walk with God is going along. And if you're one of those who's mad at God for years and years and years, well, try not to be. Follow him. Love him. And you'll find a love so much greater than anything you ever imagined. Well, you think about it. I'll be back 2 more days to finish up here in John 14. But if you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back tomorrow with another thought. God bless you. Take care.